So first of all, I want to point out the very crazy intensive DIY home improvement project that we worked on, my husband and I did. Well, we did some of it and then we hired out some of it, but we painted all of the trim in our house white as well as the doors. So, a little change in scenery behind me. It's no worry, we're still in the same house, just painted everything to kind of brighten it up a little bit and get out of the 90s really, because let's just be honest, we're done with that. So anyways, everybody, and welcome to Lindsay's Little Library. So we recently came back from vacation. We spent a week in sunny Florida and it was amazing and we had a really great time. We had sunshine and 80 degrees every day. We got our fill of swimming in the pool and lounging and it was wonderful. And while we're there, I read 3 books and one of them was an unputdownable, it's a word, psychological thriller, and I'll get to that in a second, but I thought what a great genre for me to tackle next for my Lindsay Recommends. So I'm going to share with you a few of the most recent psychological thrillers that I've read that I absolutely adored and highly recommend that you read them too. I'm going to keep my synopsis pretty short because personally I like to go into psychological thrillers not knowing a whole lot. I feel like sometimes you get a little spoiled if you know too much. So just take my word for it, just pick them up. It shouldn't even matter what they're about, they're amazing books. So we'll get started. First one I'm going to start with is Still Missing by Chevy Stevens. And I just happened to grab this one, but any book by Chevy Stevens is fantastic. This specific one happens to center around a woman whose name is Annie. She is a realtor and she's at an open house trying to get rid of this house, thinking, nothing's really happening with it today. And her last kind of visitor shows up and he abducts her and holds her hostage for a year. So you go back and forth between what happened at the time that she was abducted and then after she's back and seeing a psychiatrist, I believe. So you kind of go back and forth. It's fine. You can easily follow it. It's fantastic. Pretty much any of her books, just pick them up. Those Girls is also really good. Pick them up. They're great. Next one has been around BookTube a few times, but I feel it's worth mentioning again. It is You by Caroline Kepnes. This follows a stalker from the stalker's point of view, right? So you're in his head and there's times that you're rooting for this stalker and you kind of, you know it's wrong, but then there's part of you that's like, well, is he gonna succeed? Oh, it's crazy, it's awesome. Pick that one up. Next in my pile, and these are in no particular order, it just happens to be how I pulled them off the shelf. So I can't really pick one favorite. Maybe there's one favorite and I'll tell you which one it is. But this is the one I recently finished while I was on vacation, The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. This is her debut novel, which shocked me. That's fantastic. And it follows a woman, I never remember characters' names. Anna, I thought it was Annie, but I'm like, I just said Annie, so. It follows a woman, Anna, who has a condition where she cannot leave her house. She's stuck in there. She can't get out. She witnesses something while she's spying on her neighbors because you know what else you have to do when you can't leave your house. She witnesses something she shouldn't have and now she's toying with how do I get help and yet I can't leave my apartment. So really great. Love the book. I sped through this thing. A little slow in the beginning but well worth it. And let me tell you, when you get to page 309, oh my god, crazy. So pick that one up. So if I had to pick one psychological thriller of this stack that was by far my favorite, it would be Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. This follows a woman named Louise who is a single mom. She's out on her own. She meets a woman randomly. They kind of hit it off. They end up having some coffee. They end up being really good friends. She also meets a very attractive man at one point who they kind of hit it off. They maybe have a fling. She goes into work the next day where she's going to meet her new boss, and not only is he her new boss, but his wife is the other woman that she just met and she kind of became friends with. So crazy, but then it goes on from there and gets even crazier. So pick this up. The last chapter is amazing. It's crazy. So do it. It's a great book. Next up, I have Final Girls by Riley Sager. This follows kind of the trope about when there's a big serial killer or something like that. There's usually one person that makes it out alive and survives the ordeal, and this kind of centers around the final girls. And so it centers around 3 girls who survived some horrific event, and they're the only survivors. And then some stuff starts happening, and it seems to be that someone out there is targeting these final girls. Really good. Crazy. Alright. Next one up, I have The Couple Next Door by Sherry Lapina. This centers around neighbors. So there's a couple with no children on one part of a duplex or apartments, whatever, and then a couple that we kind of get to know, and they recently had a new baby, and they were invited next door for dinner, and they thought, well, you know, we'll leave the monitor on, we'll be able to hear the baby, and we'll go over there. We're right next door. Stuff happens. It's good. Pick that one up. And the last one I'm going to recommend for you today. Now, I would like to note that Gone Girl is not in these recommendations because I kind of felt like that goes without saying, and that Gone Girl's amazing and I loved it. I loved it to the point that I hated it and I threw it across the room, but I didn't think it needed to be represented in this recommendation video, even though I do totally recommend it. So, last one I have is Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. Wow, awesome book. Also her other book, The Breakdown, again, amazing psychological thriller. This centers around a couple, Jack and Grace. Yes, Jack and Grace. They seem to have the perfect life. They have a beautiful house. They have this great marriage. They're wonderful people, and sometimes things on the outside are not necessarily true or reflect what's happening on the inside. So, another really great book. It's awesome. Pick this one up. So that's it. That's my pile of psychological thriller recommendations that I have. This was just a quick grab off of my shelf, just kind of the ones that hit me that I've read recently and that I really, really enjoyed. It's a genre I love, and so I'm sure I will have more recommendations as we go along. If there are any psychological thrillers that you have read that I have not, please leave them below in the comments and recommend them to me. I would love to pick them up. Otherwise, like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!